right, so in this video, I'm going to talk about a leader in my life that made a massive impact early on. That man's name was Hector Leija. All right, he was my staff sergeant in Germany. So I touched down in Germany in December of 2002. Brand spanking new, private, E2, away from home for the first time. So, kind of emotions running high, on the brink of going to Iraq, weapons of mass destruction, Saddam, dictatorship, and etc. Um, I landed in second platoon and, 118 infantry. And one of our squad leaders was Hector Leija. He was an E6. He was a staff sergeant. He was young. He had to have been like 23 at the time. Now I know what you're thinking. 23 is young. However, it is young. But we looked up to people like that with rank, which kind of impressed me about him. The fact that he was a young staff sergeant. So this guy embraced us right away. Me and my best man. He would take us out to the bar, get us completely shit faced, drunk, and bring us back to the barracks at like 4 in the morning. We had PT at like 4:30 in the morning for a 12-mile run, and we'd be throwing up, going off into the wood line, coming back with one sock, and he'd be laughing, right? He'd be laughing the whole time. So he also would take us out to lunch. And all of this is rare, mind you. All of this is rare for a staff sergeant to be hanging out with lower enlisted. But that's what we liked about him. He didn't act like he was better than us or that we were less than him. He embraced us, right? And that's one of the great leadership features that I learned from him, was that you don't gotta flex your rank or act like you can't talk to anybody just because you're at a certain position, right? So that's the way he was, always mentoring us out in the field, wrestling with us on the ground fighting techniques, grappling, all as a sense of endearment, right? All is embracing us new guys. And we loved him for that. Well, he ended up going to another unit ahead of us. He ended up going to Iraq before we did. And we'd keep contact with him through email. All this social media stuff wasn't around back then. It's 2003, 2004 timeframe. Late 2003, early 2004. Right, so he got to see combat before we did. We were jealous about that because we hadn't experienced it yet, but that's what we were yearning for. So what ended up happening with him was he was in Baghdad conducting operations, right, with his other unit. And he ended up getting shot in the head by a sniper. And he didn't survive those wounds. It doesn't surprise me in the least that Hector Leija was leading his men from the front, right? And taking charge and doing what he was supposed to do, above and beyond. When I got the news, extremely heartbreaking, heart-wrenching. And it just, tears me apart to this day, right? Because it's never over. I'm always going to have those guys in my mind. But I wanted to share with you guys that man's impact on my life, right? And on all the leadership characteristics and traits that I learned from him. Like, number one, he showed me that you can be young in age and achieve a position or rank, that's high up there, which is something I looked up to. Number two, he showed me that just because you have that rank doesn't mean that you have to walk around like you're better than anybody else. Okay? He also showed me that by engaging with your subordinates or your lower ranking or employees that you get to learn about them, right? And then they value you, they trust you, they'll follow you into the gates of hell, as was the case with him. So, if it's one thing I learned, it's don't walk around like you're better than anybody else. All right, get to know the people beneath you. Okay, because ultimately the goal of a leader is to build other leaders. That's ultimately the goal, right? It's never to step on people for your own career success or step on people to get to the top. That's an absolutely wrong mentality. That's more of a boss mentality. And there's definitely a difference between boss and leaders, right? But utilizing this way of leading, not only does it make you a better leader, it makes you a better person, right? It makes you more trustworthy. It lets people come up to you with their problems, which is ultimately what you want, right? So you know what's going on. You know what's going on around you. Because if you put up that wall, people aren't going to come up to you with problems, right? You're gonna have stuff going on that you don't even know about, which is ultimately going to end in failure. So learn from him, right? And how he approached life, how he approached rank, how he approached leadership, all the way up until the last point of his life, right? Doing what he did best.